Hello everyone, how are you? I hope you are doing well. So in this video, we will see function in Python programming. So without wasting any time, let's start the video. So first, I will open the Jupyter Notebook file where I have stored everything which we need to know about function in Python programming. The first is introduction. In Python, a function is a block of code that perform a specific task. Functions provide a way to modularize our code and make it more reusable. By breaking down a program into smaller, more manageable functions, we can make our code more organized, easier to understand, and less prone to errors. So in this lecture, we will see the following topics related to function in the Python programming. First is defining function, second is function parameters, third is return values, then fourth is scope of variable, fifth is lambda function, then the last is recursion. So let's start from the definition. So defining function. To define a function in Python, we use the def keyword followed by the name of the function and a set of parentheses. Any arguments that the function takes are specified inside the parentheses, and the body of the function is intended below the def statement. For example, let's say we want to define a function that takes two arguments and returns their sum. In this example, you can see I have defined a function called add numbers, and I have defined using def keyword, and I have given two arguments, one a, second b, and in the code block I have written return a plus b. So what this code block is doing, it is returning me the sum of a and b, and if I run this cell, then this add numbers function will be defined in my code. So I run this cell, this add numbers function is now defined. I can use this function anywhere in my program. So here add number is the name of the function and a and b are the argument that it takes, and the return statement specifies what the function should return when it is called. So this is what I told you. Next is function parameters. So in Python, function can take 0 or more parameters which are specified inside the parentheses after the function name. Parameters are used to pass values to a function when it is called. So there are two types of function parameters in Python. First is positional parameter and the second is keyword parameters. So positional parameters are passed by position, while keyword parameters are passed by name. So for example, let's say we want to define a function that takes 3 positional argument and 1 keyword parameter. So in this example, a, b and c are the positional parameter and this message is keyword parameter. So if I run this cell, so this print numbers function will be defined, and I can use this print numbers function anywhere in my program. So I run this cell, so my print numbers function is defined now. Now, as I already told you, a, b and c are positional parameters, while message is a keyword parameter with a default value of string numbers. So what default value means here? Whenever we are calling that particular function, so if we are not giving any particular value to that parameter, so the default value of that parameter will be printed there, will be used there. So the default value of this message parameter is numbers, so this numbers will be used there whenever this function is being called. So when we call this function, we can either specify all 4 arguments by position, or we can specify the message argument by name. So when we write print numbers 1, 2, 3, so that means we are calling this print numbers function and we are giving the value of a, b, c respectively by 1, 2, 3. So the value of a is 1 and b is 2 and the c is 3. So if I run this cell, so the output will be numbers 1, 2, 3, and in the second line you can see I have called this print numbers function, but this time I have given a I have specified the argument message by the numbers are. So this is my value of for this message argument. So if I run this cell, this time this message will not be numbers. This time this message will print the numbers are. So this time the default value will be overwritten. So if I run this cell, you can see the outputs are which I have already written here. So these are the outputs. So the numbers 1, 2, 3, the numbers are 1, 2, 3. So this is how this default parameters works here. The next is return values. So in Python, functions can return values using the return statement. The value that is returned can be of any data type, including integers, float, string, list, tuples, dictionary, and anything which we have seen earlier. So for example, let's say we want to define a function that takes string as input and returns the length of the string. So in this example, we are using def keyword to define the function string length, and we are using one parameter, that is s, and we are doing operation on the s only, and we are returning length of the s. So s should be a string, list, tuple that support length method. So here length s is the value that is returned by the function, and when we call the function, the return value can be assigned to a variable or used in a expression. So here I have used this string, that is subscribe, and it is being stored in a variable called string, and I am calling this string length function on this string variable, and whatever value is being written from this function, I am storing that value in this length variable, and again I am printing the value of this length variable. So what these 3 lines of code will do: first, it will assign the subscribe string in the variable called string, and in the second line it will call the string length function on string variable, and it will store the value of that is being written from this string length function into the length variable, and in the third line it will print the value of length. So if I run this cell, so it will give me the length of subscribe string. So the length of subscribe string is 369. So the length of subscribe is 9 here, so the output is 9. Next is scope of variables. So in Python, the scope of a variable refers to the area of the code where the variable can be accessed. So there are 2 types of variable scopes in Python: global and local. So global variables are defined outside of any function and can be accessed from anywhere in the code, and local variables are defined inside of a function and can be only accessed from within that function. So as you can see, global and local. Global means that is available globally, so everyone can use that, and local means that is available for a particular area, so the people from that area only can use. So this is how we can interpret global and local variable. So here is an example. Let's say we define a global variable called x and a function called add to x. So that adds a given value to the x. So in the example, you can see x is equal to 0, and this x is defined globally. So this x can be used by this function also and some other function also. We have defined a function called add to x, and we have given a parameter called value. We are using global x here, and in this x we are adding this value. So if I run this cell, so these lines of code will be executed. Now the time to check the function which we have defined here. So first we will print the value of x here before calling this function, and we have called this function and we have given the parameter 5 here. So value is 5 here, and again after calling this function we have called again, we have again printed the value of x. So you can see for the first time when this function is not being called, the value of x is 0, and when the second time this function is being called, after this function is being called, the value of x will be 5. So if I run this cell, the output is 0 and 5. Now you understood what this scope of variable means here. Next is lambda function. So lambda function, also known as anonymous functions, and these are a way to define a function in a single line of code without giving it a name. So they are useful for writing short simple functions that are used only once. So to define a lambda function in the Python, we can use lambda keyword followed by the function argument and a column, and then the expression that should be evaluated. So lambda x comma y, then colon, then x plus y. So this means this x and y will be added using this lambda function. So if I call this lambda function here and store the value of that is being written from the lambda function into the variable add, so what it will do, it will give me output as the sum of those two numbers. So if I call add 2 comma 3, so what it will do, it will give me output as 2 plus 3, that is 5. So x will be 2 and y will be 3. So the value will be, that is being written, 5. So output is 5. So if I run this cell and again this cell, so output is 5 here. And if I run this cell again, but this time I change the value of x to 5, now the output should be 8. So the output is 8. So next is recursion. So recursion is a technique in programming where a function calls itself repeatedly until a certain condition is met. It is often used to solve problems that can be broken down into smaller, simpler sub-problems. To write a recursive function in Python, we first define a base case, which is the condition under which the function should stop calling itself. Then we define the recursive case, which is the code that should be executed when the function calls itself. For example, let's say we want to write a recursive function that calculates the factorial of a number. So we are using def keyword to define a function called factorial, and we are giving keyword as n. So if n is equal to 0, return 1. So this is our base case. This is where our function will be stopped calling itself, and otherwise this will be our code block which will be executed multiple times when the function is calling itself. So if I print factorial 5, that means value of n is equal to 5. So you can see n is not equal to 0, so it will not execute this code block. So this will go into this code block, and else statement will be executed. So this will execute this statement. So what this will do? This will do 5 into factorial 5 minus 1, that is 4. So 5 into factorial 4. So this is factorial 4. That means this function is being called itself again. So this factorial 4 means factorial 3 into 4. This factorial 3 means factorial 2 into 3, and again factorial 2 means 2 into factorial 1, and factorial 1 means 1 into factorial 0. So when the value of n is 0, that means n equal to 0, so this function will be written. So this code block will be executed. So that time value of factorial 0 will be 1, so that means factorial of 1 will be 1, and the factorial of 2 will be 2, then factorial of 3 will be 3 into 2. Similarly, our output should be factorial 5 is equal to 120. So if I print this cell, if I run this cell, the value will be 120. So the output is 120. So those who did not understood, so first time when this factorial 5 is being called, so the value being written 5 into factorial 4. So this factorial 4 is unknown here. We do not know what the value of factorial 4. So this time we will again use this factorial function to get the value of factorial 4. So this time value will be 4 into factorial 3. So This time again we do not know the value of factorial 3. So we will again use this factorial function to get the value of factorial 3. This time you will get the value of factorial 3 is equal to 3 into factorial 2. And again you do not know the value of factorial 2. So we will use again this factorial function only. And we will get the value of factorial 2 is equal to 2 into factorial 1. And you know, we also do not know the value of factorial 1 again. So we will again use this factorial function and we will get the output of factorial 1 is equal to 1 into factorial 0. So since we know the value of factorial 0 equal to 1, so the value of factorial 1 will be 1 into 1. So that means 1 into 1, and this means basically 2 into 1, yeah, and this means 3 into 2 into 1, and again this means 4 into 3 into 2 into 1, and lastly this means 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. So this is how you can interpret how this factorial works. So the value of factorial 5 will be 5 into 4, that is 20, then 20 into 6 is equal to 120. So this is the output of factorial 5 here. So I hope you understood. So if you still did not get how this factorial function is working here, so let me know in the comment section. I will make a separate video on factorial. And so now I will conclude this video here itself. In conclusion, I will say functions are an essential part of programming. They allow us to modularize our code, make it more reusable, and solve complex problems more easily. By understanding how define functions, use parameter and return values, work with variable scopes, return lambda function, and implement recursion, we can write more efficient, readable, and maintainable code in Python programming. So that's all from this video. Now take care, bye bye.